the commission as it is not properly constituted. With that decision in mind, if a similar situation comes, maybe come next election or in elections, future elections, and we have commissioners who just before election maybe 3-4 resign and put the whole country into disarray. If you're confronted by a situation whereby your personal interest, because of public pressure, or in quote, pressures from elsewhere, at that critical point in time, will you base your decision on the public interest first, or your personal interest on making a decision whether you should resign or not, or maybe quit in half? Maybe my question is not very clear, but I think you understand where I'm coming from. The commissioners, some of the decisions of the commissioners can have the effect of paralyzing an election just maybe a few days, and you know the process of nominating, vetting, and all that is a tedious process, and that's why maybe for some time we have only been operating with the commissioners. What would be your take if you are this committee recommend for your appointment?
Okay, Shamara.
Madam Juliana, one of the mandates of the IEBC is voter education. You have stated clearly in your CV and over here that you worked as a county chief officer in Mombasa. And part of your duties, as I perused your CV, was, or responsibilities, was awareness on countering and preventing violent terrorism. Against the backdrop of our history and our country and what is going on in the world, and with regards to your voter education, what is the messaging you will take out there, and what are the threats you see during an election from violent extremism?
Okay, Mheshimiwa Whonge.
Thank you, Chair. Madam Juliana, I want to congratulate you for your nomination. I just have maybe 2 questions for you. We have witnessed violence during and after elections. What is your take on how to sustain transparency in the election management process in such an event? Number 2, you did mention in your reply to the chair on how you are mandated to maintain the register of IEBC in terms of voters and whatever. How do you view the issue of the parties using their own register to nominate candidates, then they come before you, the register of which you don't have? What's your take in terms of comparison?
Okay,
thank you.
Pero, Juliana, you have about 6 questions. You have Mheshimiwa Whonge on delimitation. Then you have Wabugo on Wabugo's, I can't remember what. Yes. You remember them?
Yes, the questions, yes.
Yes, you have, yeah, okay, very well. If you can try to answer them briefly.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start with a question on delimitation of boundaries. Yes, it is one of the mandates that the Commission has to deal with. The Constitution puts it clearly that the constitutions, they can be delimited after every 8 years, and for the ward units, it can be periodically. So the question of if it can be done now, that is impossible because we have less than 12 months to the next general election. So that is, according to the Constitution, not possible. The next is the pressure of quitting that has been evident sometime before election. And this one, for me, my philosophy, it will come back to my philosophy. I am one person that is is very people, I have people skills. And with this vetting and looking at the way of my personal interest and the interest of the public, I will go for the interest of the public. Why? I am one person that will want to speak for the vulnerable, to speak for the people that don't have an opportunity, a voice to speak on the table. So I'll want to be that voice that will be with the people, because this is our country. We don't have any other country. And we have everyone here, our relatives and our people and this whole nation, we are one. So being given this opportunity to be a commissioner, and things become sour and pressure mounts up. For me, I will stand with my policy to stand for the public and to be there. Like a captain, you don't let the ship to drown alone. You be there and you be with it, because who knows that by being there 2 more minutes, it will stabilize. So my philosophy is I'll stand with the people. Next, Honorable...
Is on what? Shamala is on
voter education. Yes, I've dealt with preventive and counter-violent extremism as a special program in the executive. Extremism it is a global issue. And for Mombasa being a gateway city for East and Central Africa, being next to the Horn of Somalia, and we've experienced quite a bit of extremisms. And we've done programs that were geared into cohesion and integration of the people, knowing that we live in a cosmopolitan city. And just like the whole country, we are different tribes, we are different faiths, we are different beliefs, but we have been very strategic and deliberate to ensure that we have programs that will make people be tolerant to other people's beliefs, other people's way of life, appreciating our cultures, appreciating the diversity that we have in this country. Now, when it comes to election and voter education, yeah, my vision is to integrate these concepts. When you deal with a community that views the other community in a negative way, as these educators move around and they teach, we infuse into the curriculum that is the curriculum that is used to teach people when they go out to vote. Now, when you tell people to come and vote, you tell them it is appreciating our country and what our country stands for, the diversity, the culture, the nature that we have. So I think what I will propose is to infuse into the curriculum some of the concepts that are geared into preventive and countering violent extremism, so that we reduce. And by the end of it all, it is a process, it is not a one-time thing, but by the end of it all, we'll have a generation that is very purposeful in their intentions.
Okay, go to violence.
Violence, transparency issue in elections, and, the violence that usually occurs during elections can be stopped. One, when we begin early, during the voter education, even during the mass voter registration. As the people come forth to register themselves, these messages can be passed. Like someone can come and they are revisiting previous elections that have happened. That is a good way to strike a conversation and to be very purposeful and intentional to ensure that we have messages that will help people not to engage into violent activities. About the register, for the register to be brought into the commission, which is different to what the commission has, I believe through the stakeholders' engagement with the Office of Registrar of Political Party. That one can be ironed out because all political parties are handled by the Register of Political Parties. Then, now with the good relationship that we have, the stakeholders' engagement, this can be cleared. In that, once the register has been submitted to the Commission, there's no other counter register that will be submitted. So for the Commission, I think it is basically to give a deadline that once the register has been submitted, it should be a sure copy and nothing should be changed unless those provisions that are legally provided by law happen. For example, someone who is a main stakeholder in that list has passed on.
Very well. Kamote?
Juliana, we congratulate you for having come all the way up to this point. Election is not just about credibility, but also freedom and fairness. You are from the county government. What have you done in your capacity that has promoted fairness, freedom of the workers that you are working with, to an extent that can convince this vetting panel that indeed you're going to bring fairness to IEBC, because fairness is all that people look for in election. It can be credible, yes, because it is up to the standards laid down by law, but will it be fair? So if you can tell us the outstanding things that you did in your previous engagement to prove to us that you can indeed promote fairness. And lastly, can see you an ICT person. Maybe you tell us what you think of technology, particularly the technology that has been used by our IEBC. Do you think it's sufficient? Do you think it's there to promote fairness, or is there to promote issues that has brought us problems in this country? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Juliana, first I'd like to congratulate you as well for making it through the whole entire system until you reached this stage. If I may, personally, I believe that you have the capacity to be a commissioner. Why? Because of your experiences so far and the way you've articulated. And most importantly, I've seen firsthand how Mombasa County operates. And I've always believed that the county government of Mombasa operates very professionally. And although I've met you briefly previously, you know, I've just learned because of this interview that you've been in the middle of, standing in place to ensure that implementation of whatever is decided by the executive is undertaken by the administrators. And when you speak about branding IEBC, I've been to some of the events that you've mentioned here. And as I said, the way the county is run professionally, I believe you're able to do that. The elephant in the room, though, sometimes, and I think some members have slowly alluded, but I wanted to be direct, is also, again, whether you believe you can divorce yourself, because you've been working for the Mombasa County government for 7 years, in regards to...
Those are live pictures from Parliament there. Juliana Whonge Cherera is appearing before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. She's being vetted for the position of the Independent and Electoral Boundaries Commission Commissioner position. Now remember, this comes around 3 weeks after President Uhuru Kenyatta nominated 4 names to the National Assembly for vetting. This is the last step. After this, they will be appointed as IEBC commissioners, I beg your pardon. They will be replacing Roslyn Akombe, Margaret Mochanya, Paul Kurgat, and former Vice Chair Consolata Maina. Of course, this is something that we're following up for you. Well, that's how we wrap things up here on News Center. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Ashley Mazuri. Have a good day.
This is KTN News.
My friend had a brother, and his brother was so close to me. For me, his brother was like a big brother that I will run to. Like, you know, at that time you feel like, yes, I now have a big brother, because our father was always not around. He was always at work. So for me, his big brother was like my big brother. And this day, the normal thing we used to do, I was almost going to school, and in the morning at around 7:30, he told me, Pauline, tunaweza enda kwa brother yetu, just you to wash his clothes, and then after washing his clothes, you'll come back, I take you to school. It was normal. It was something normal. I was like, yes, we are going to do that, and then ukikuja, mi niende shule. And that day it was not just like any other day, because, you know, our conversation on that road, it was okay. From Mashimoni, we passed through Lindi, we were going to Langata. At that time, Langata had no road. Everything was just okay. And, you know, the moment we went to that place, and it was bushy by that time, and I was pushed. You know, it didn't trigger that I was walking with an enemy. For me, this was my friend, and this man here is my big brother. I didn't think of anything else. And when I was pushed, the first question I asked, ni nini mbaya? I was slapped. I was slapped, and the only word I remember him telling me, unajifanya wewe ndio unajua kusoma, wacha tukufanye ukae kama sister yangu. And they were 4 men in the room. You know, sometimes I really don't want to remember the whole incident, but it was just too painful. I was born and raised in Kibera slums, Nairobi, and life in Kibera for me, I call it a lesson. I don't term it as suffering. I call it a lesson because I've learned a lot in Kibera. And even in my background, how I was raised with my mom, food for us was a privilege. Education for us was a privilege. And my mom just reminded me at the age of 9, we had not taken food for a whole day. And I just told her, when I grow up, I want to open a children's home, and God will provide it. I just told her, don't worry, God will provide it. And we were lucky. We got scholarship. Me and my sisters and my brother, we got scholarship, and I went through school. But what really drove me to what I'm doing right now is being sexually abused at the age of 16 and going through domestic violence at the age of 19. All this happened while I was a teenager. And, you know, my society felt like I was a rebel, because at 16, I was trying to tell my society I was hurt. 4 men gang raped me, but I can't tell you directly because you'll judge me. I just want my space. I became so rebellious and so attached to men, because for me at that moment, men were they were like my God. They were the one to protect me from any more harm. And when I went through domestic violence at the age of 19, I felt so useless, because this was a man I trusted with my whole life. But he later came and just taught me that, you know, love does not exist at all, because you're going into a relationship to find love, and in that relationship you're called useless, you're beaten up, you're abused every single day. And even one day he told me, hii tabia yako ndo ilifanya ukarepiwa. You know, I felt so bad. I felt like I didn't have a safe space for me. And you know, from 16 to around 21, a lot happened to my life, because it was from trauma to trauma, and the only way for me to heal was going through more trauma. I was taking myself into more trauma. So even after my first relationship broke at the age of 20, and the guy told me, you know, you're a dead flower, no one will ever look at you. You know, I'll just be honest that it's 1 year ago that I had to let that word go, because any moment I would remember you're a dead flower. I hated flowers with my whole life. When I was 22, one day I was so depressed, so depressed, and it was in the middle of the night, and I took a pen, I went to a mirror and I looked at the mirror and I wrote a 3-sentence poem. Dear Pauline, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're confident. And from that day my life changed. Rebirth of a Queen first was founded in 2019, December. And the purpose of Rebirth of a Queen for me was to reach out to a teenager. Most of the times we call teenagers rebels, but we don't really want to know their stories. We don't really want to know what is behind this rebellious girl, what is behind this gang boy that you call every day gang. And in March, I received my first call. And it was not one of the best calls in this world, because it was around 7:30. You're receiving a call of a girl who has just been defiled. No one knows what to do with them, and there's nothing that is going to happen to a perpetrator. You know, that was the first girl I took away from Kibera, and I think that was the beginning of me thinking of a shelter. That was the beginning of me manifesting a dream that I had when I was 9. I wanted a children's home, and most importantly, a shelter for teenagers, a shelter for a teenage girl, a shelter for a teenage mother, a shelter for a young woman who just had a child going through domestic violence. Some of them have children out of rape. They will never tell you, because the society will be like, but you took yourself there. I work as a freelance writer, and the money I earn, I make sure the shelter is supported, the rent is paid, the girls have food, they access education as much as they can, and their medical and emergencies. But for us, it's been amazing people who support us, and also the team behind Rebirth of a Queen. Let me say it's been hard for perpetrators to come here, because most of the girls we rescue are from the slums, and sometimes it feels so bad denying a mother to come and visit their child because the mother is vulnerable to the perpetrator. It feels so bad, but sometimes we do it, because we know very well the mother is very vulnerable. And we've had these cases where the girl is here, but the mother is being attacked by the perpetrator. We have those studying from home, because we are discouraged again from taking them to school outside, so they study at home, and they are registered as private students. We have mentorship every Wednesday. We have art therapy, where they just draw their feelings out. They have to go through therapy every week. We have education. Each and every one of them, you'll just have to find something to read, because I tell them an empowered survivor, those are the people that will change the narratives of gender-based violence in this world. You have to be empowered to know what is happening even outside the world, because if there's one thing that I really look up to is to grow a sustainable shelter, is to grow a shelter that can sustain itself, and also empower the survivors that you can do something with your life. At the moment we have 54 shelters in 18 counties in Kenya. And one thing I've learned, GBV is not a one-person journey. The government cannot do it on their own. We cannot do it on our own. So if we can have a system of us working together, and working together authentically, that is the generation that I will to raise for the rest of my life. So we really need to have a very serious justice system and very serious punishment to people, especially people who defile children. Because especially sexual violence, it's more than rape. It's just more than you harming me physically. It's you affecting my whole life. It's 10 years, but Pauline cannot still wear a green dress. Sometimes I really wish there can be a survivor who's a judge that will really know the pain survivors go through. Then this will end.
Choco Primo Drinking Chocolate from True Foods.
Rich, full drinking chocolate with bodybuilding nutrients.
Cozy up with a Choco Primo cup.
Choco Primo Drinking Chocolate from True Foods.
Arrange toys on the changing table to keep your baby occupied and entertained as you change their diaper.
Good morning, my baby.
I am fine, fine, fine.
How did you sleep, baby?
So fine, fine, fine.
Why so fine, fine, fine?
Soft care, fine, fine, fine.
I'm happy you're dry. Soft hair, very soft.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Wakazi eneo la Yata, kaunti ya Makueni, wanashuhudia uhaba mkubwa wa maji kutokana na kiangazi. Sijapoteza chochote baada ya mahakama ya rufaa kutupilia mbali rufaa ya mchakato wa BBI, asema Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Na wakazi wanaotegemea hospitali ya Kakuma wanataabika kusafirisha miili ya wapendwa wao hadi Lodwar, kwani hospitali hiyo haina hifadhi ya maiti.